My name is Doug Spindler. I'm from City College, or I teach at City College San Francisco, which is where we're at right now, but I teach out at the Ocean Street campus. So presentation today is all about what's going on with Microsoft. New products galore, right? So before, I kind of want to keep this an open format and have a discussion back and forth. I'm not going to really show you what's in Windows because we don't really know, right? It hasn't been released yet. But let me share some things with you and also give you some tips. So the first one that I like to share with people is my students love this. Have you seen OneNote? Or more importantly, do you teach your students to use OneNote? Okay, and my question is, why not? Yeah, so that's the answer, is nobody knows how to use it themselves. So I'll tell you, every single student that I have, if it's their first day, I tell them open and create a OneNote account, either on a local machine or up in the cloud. And I'm not sure if Microsoft discontinued this, but students have a free account that's in Office 365 where OneNote is located. And one of the classes that I teach happens to be scripting, command line, command shell. And what I tell them is every time you get a new command, just type it into OneNote. And that way you know what it is. You can search for it. It comes back as a reference. And I got to tell you, I'm shocked that the college that I used to teach at, which teaches Office, does not teach OneNote. And I can tell you this tool, all your students will use throughout their college career and beyond. Well, let me show you something better. This is from Microsoft. So I don't know if I'll show you the whole thing, but I do want to skip to the end. So hopefully we got sound. We have sound? Oh. So has anybody seen this? Don't you love the music, though? Is this clever? Was that good? Okay, so wait. Before I get to that, let me just tell you, all of these people here are the ones who wrote OneNote Mac or contributed to it. Do you notice anything about all of them? Yeah, they're all young. I don't think there's anybody over 35 in this group. So what does that mean? I don't know. So let me go back here. Okay. So what is OneNote, right? That's what you're asking. Let's see, do we even have it on this machine here? Is it coming up? Oh, here we go. Okay. So OneNote is, let me do this for a second, is a notebook, just like this, is the way to take a look at this. Oh, I need to sign in. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. Can't. See, if I sign in, it's going to download all my notes. Is this? Are they using 365 here? Oh, here we go. Okay. So the way to take a look at this, or the way to think about this, is like this, or a three-ring spiral binder, and just as you have pages, you also have sections. And the great thing about it is it's completely searchable. So you can go through here and you can read all this stuff, but don't even bother to do that. Instead, what you want to do is you click over here. This creates a new notebook, okay? And this area here is free-form text. So I can just type. I can put pictures. I can put sound. I can put audio or video clips. I can put whatever I want in there. And over here are pages. So I might have, I tell my students, like, who are my CN, I'll have them do CNIT, right, 102 is one notebook. I have them create another one, CNIT 103. Okay? So what will happen is I'll be lecturing, and I might have a topic like Wireshark. Okay? And if you take a look over here on the right-hand side, these are all my pages, and this will fill up. And so I tell my students, like every day, every lecture, put all your notes in here, and at the end of the semester, you'll have all these pages that you can search through. So one command I might have is like NSLOOKUP. Okay, and I'll tell them, I'm doing this free form, I can't talk and type, but here's the command. And what I'll tell them is what the syntax is for the command, where you can find additional information so that they have a link, right? So then what happens is we have another page, right? And I'll do 2. I'm just trying to create content here, right? So I have all these different pages that are in here. And let's say the semester goes by, or it's next semester, and somebody says, do you remember how to use NSLOOKUP? And it's like, well, I remember that was in the class last semester. Let me see if I can find it. And all I got to do is start typing NS. Did I do that right? All I have to do is type NSLOOK. Is this not working for me? NS. Yeah, what it should come up with is on the side here. Is it still finding it? Oh, I see. No, these are the pages where NS is located. Why are we not doing that? It might not be indexed. Oh. Yeah, it's kind of a free-form database. Okay. But but one thing I can do with OneNote is I can clip something. Let me go out here to the web. So I can go out here, I can do a screen clipping. Check this out. Mouse clicked. So I do a screen clipping here, right? Highlight this, clip it, and then I want to put it into current section, and I click send. Poof, it's in there, right? So now I have a document. And not only that, if this is set up correctly, it gives me date and time as well as the URL where it was copied from. So I can tell you my entire life is in here. So that's why I don't want to put mine in here. But my credit card information, all my rapid rewards, my get across the bridge with a fast track, Clipper card, IP addresses, my Comcast account, everything is in there. Anytime I set up a brand new account up on a website someplace, I put it into OneNote because I know 2 years, 3 years from now, I'm going to have to log into that again. Poof, I look in OneNote and there it is. When I create notes for lectures that I'm giving, like if I'm sitting here, I'll use OneNote to type in, oh, that was pretty good. But wait, this gets even better. If you have a Microsoft Surface, which I'm sure everybody should get, right? You want to get one of these. This is the most fantastic tool for students right now. And the reason is because Microsoft integrated OneNote with this so that when you set this up, right, you put it on your table, or you put it on your desk while you're taking notes. There's a front forward-facing camera that you can click on that you can start a video audio recording of. And anytime you hit the space bar, it puts a marker in there in the video so you can type a note in there. So you can then go back immediately to that spot. I can tell you in chemistry, physics, biology, I wish I would have had this because I recorded the notes that, the lectures. I didn't have the video to go with it. But what's great about OneNote is it takes me exactly to the spot where I need to review whatever concept I'm trying to learn. And I can tell you with my students, when it comes to setting up a classroom where they have IP addresses and they forget it's from 1 week to another, I just say, stick it in OneNote. Yes? Oh, a fan. Yeah. Yeah. That's another discussion. Next lesson or next session. I could talk to you about that because that's a real problem that I have at City College here, and I don't have an answer for you. I think it's more of a reflection of society. And I've got a daughter who can't concentrate, and I got a son that works at Uber. So it's like I'm both ends of the spectrum. And my daughter can't remember to close the door. It's kind of that bad. And I'm thinking, why? And what I'm realizing is that we as educators, all of us, have failed society. This is my opinion. And that we're not teaching students how to concentrate anymore or how to be focused. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but that's what I'm observing through my daughter. Yep. Yeah. I played games. I played computer games too. Yeah, I'm completely focused on that. You don't care about food. You don't care about going to the bathroom. You care about winning the next level. Let's make that a discussion topic for next year. How's that? So this is the second generation RT. So the first one was black and only had one position here. This one has 2 positions. So we'll talk about this a little bit. There are 2 types of keyboards. There are 3 types of keyboards you can get with the Surface. There's what I call the Atari 400. Remember what the Atari 400 was? Don't buy that one. Then they have the Atari 800, which is this one, which are actual keys. Then they have another one that's really fantastic. It's just a little thicker than this, but it has a battery pack in here. So you snap it in, you got battery, and I got to tell you, My daughter, so I'm an iPad guy, I'm a Surface guy, I'm a desktop guy, laptop guy. You know, I got my Android phone, so I'm all over the place. Oh yeah, yeah. I got it on my Apple. I got it on my. I mean, that was OneNote Mac. I got it on my Mac computer. Whatever. I have. What's your most expensive Mac? The Air. I don't even know. Is it the Air? No, MacBook Pro, right? That's a $2,000 one. This is the way I think. There's a $1,000 one. So my son gave me his $2,000 one because Uber gave him a brand new one. So I've got OneNote Mac on that. I've got OneNote on here. I've got OneNote on here. I've got OneNote on here. You know, I've got it everywhere. And the other thing with OneNote is you as an instructor should be using this because I can publish my OneNote so I can share with everybody in my class. And I can have students create or make entries or create a page that they get synced with everybody. So that's kind of the beauty of the cloud, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. Yes. You're asking kind of two questions. So Microsoft actually designed that, right? iPad came out first, and you know, you try and do the camera thing and it doesn't work. So they came out with the thing. The first one, and Microsoft was kind of smart because if you put it this way, the camera is pointed that way, right? So what Microsoft did is they point the camera up. So when I take pictures, I really have to take pictures this way to get a picture of the wall, okay? So they really did, I'm not a student anymore, but they really did a brilliant job because I can be in OneNote, I can start the recording of a lecture, right? And I can remember in chemistry, biology, there's a chemical pathway that's going on, and the instructor's writing and then like erases something or a math equation, and it's like, darn, you know, that's the key point. I can hit the space bar, it puts a marker in there, and I can say, like, learn this. I can type in there, you know, learn this or review this. So that way I can skip through the, you know, tomorrow is going to be a quiz and blah, 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 blah. And I can go right to those points and review over and over and over again. That's a student doing it, but you could also do it because you as an instructor could record the video and put the markers in there. It's done while you're recording, yeah. The other thing about this is you can use a stylus so you can pick up it. OneNote does all this other stuff that I never use, right? The only thing that I use it for is to type in text, to take pictures, to put in. So, like if I'm working for a company and I have a day job, right? So if I'm setting up this computer system here or something, I will take pictures of like the back of the computer to see how all the cables are plugged in, and I'll just put a note in OneNote, you know, classroom, whatever we are, 1204 computer, instructor's computer. And that way I can type 1204, I can type instructor's computer, I can do any, you know, any of these keyword searches to find that. And so I can't tell you how valuable this is to be able to find that in a split second to come up here and go to the back of the computer and say, oh, the cable's wrong. Here I've got the picture from when it was originally set up. The other thing, I worked at UCSF Med Center. Every time I would put a computer in, I would take a picture of the back that showed me the tag number, it showed me the serial number, you know, it showed me a lot of features about the computer so that way I could sit at my desk while the chump next to me is going, oh, I got to hike up to the server room. I got to figure out what the tag number is. And I go, well, I got mine. You know, I know which one I got because I have the actual photo. You know, I see what I've got. So I can tell you this thing is fantastic. And although I like the iPad, in the morning when I wake up, it's like, am I an iPad guy or am I a Surface guy? And it just kind of depends. I will tell you the camera in this sucks. The camera in here is better. You know, it really goes back and forth. And that's kind of I think a good lead into what's going on here is that your students are bringing all these things to class, right? Which also applies what's going on in business. So let me switch back here to my actual, oh, before I switch back, any questions about OneNote? So it's part of the Office suite, and it has been since 2003. And I'll tell you, when Microsoft gave me Office 2003, or when I got Office 2003, I was encouraged to use OneNote, and I swear to you, every day for 6 months, I looked at it going, this is dumb. I don't get it. This is just like Word, you know? And so then one day I was gone for a couple days, and I had like 10 different voicemail messages, and I thought, oh, let me type them in to OneNote. So I put in the 10 messages, all I had. I could have done it in Word, Notepad, whatever. And then what happened is somebody said, oh, let me look into that, or I need your VIN number for your car, I don't know, whatever it was. And I thought, oh, let me create another page, because this phone call has now led into something else that I need to expand on, and that I need to come back to at a later point in time. And so once I started doing that, that one phone call or that one series of voicemail messages is what got me hooked on OneNote. And I got to tell you, that is right now the most valuable piece of software I have. Nope. So my OneNote, the way I have it set up is it syncs. So I can either have OneNote on a computer, I can have OneNote in the cloud, or I can have OneNote syncing. And so I have it syncing between this, between that, between this, between my desktop. So if I type something in here, it immediately gets synced to the cloud, right? Synced to the cloud. Then from the cloud, when this computer comes online, can communicate with the internet, then all of a sudden it's in sync. Yeah, it's all encrypted and all that kind of junk. Yeah, no, I trust them completely. What? We could debate all that. The answer is, honestly, you can't trust anybody, right? OneNote question, yes. Yeah. It doesn't have to go over the internet. Throwing you a curveball, huh? Okay, I can set up OneNote to sync amongst everybody in here and not with the internet. Yeah, but there are 3 ways you can set up OneNote. One is I can set it up for one computer that's not shared. I can set it up so I can share it with a group on a local area network, or I can share it so it's synced with the web. It syncs with the web. And then it downloads and syncs with everybody else. Okay, I can tell you I've worked, hold on, John. I've worked on some projects like MPIC conferences with other people, and we use OneNote, and it puts the initials of whoever types something in there. So it's like, great, somebody comes up like, here's the new logo. And so then people comment, and I can see who their initials are, so I know who to yell at and say, yeah, you know. Yes. You don't need SkyDrive or OneDrive. It's within the app itself. It's able to do that. And you can either sync locally, you can specify a group, or you can do it through OneDrive or the internet. Yeah. Yeah. I do that every day. So are we talking about access or data in flight? So data at rest. So wait, okay. So data at rest. Yeah, you'd have to encrypt it. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I might not be thinking right through what you're asking, but Yeah, I might have to think about that, but I believe that's where we're at right now. Yeah, so let me retract that. I don't know. That's probably a better answer because I'm thinking of PC. I got to tell you, I can't believe that at our college, the women or the people, I shouldn't pick on a woman, but the instructors would be more accurate, who teach Office, and we all teach Office, right? This is the one tool that every single student should learn how to use because this will follow them, and it doesn't matter if it's in IT, if you're in history, English, math, whatever, this is the program that they need, right? It's a study aid. So anyway, so I wanted to share this with you. I hope you enjoyed that. Microsoft has a sense of humor, but the real reason I showed you this is because now that tune's in your head for the rest of the day. But the other part was to just kind of emphasize that there's a new generation of IT workers and programmers working on this stuff. And they don't really think the same way that we do, like our students, right? So is this not going forward? What am I doing wrong here? Maybe I got to click. Oh, what is this? Oh, I hate this stuff. Okay. No. I'm just, I didn't realize I hate transitions. I want to speed through stuff. Okay, so again, let's kind of start, although we've started. So this session is all about what's new. And when we take a look at what's happening with Microsoft, you need to factor in Azure. You need to factor in Server, which is now called Server Next. We've got Hyper-V, which is part of Server, but Hyper-V can be standalone. There's Xbox, Windows Phone, and who knows what else Microsoft is coming up with. So my agenda today is kind of open agenda. I have a lot of different topics that I want to share with you, and the idea is to kind of plant a seed that maybe this is something you're interested in, maybe not, but the big thing I got to say is Microsoft has definitely changed. So one of the things that I'm hearing from a lot of people, a lot of instructors that I talk to is you want an online environment, right, where you can host Microsoft Labs. There's a person that I've met, he's actually from Denmark, but he does a lot of work with Microsoft at TechEd to provide the TechEd lab environment. And I'd like to show you a picture, but I don't have time. But Microsoft sets up 500 computers at their TechEd conference, which is like the Moscone Center, and they have for 5-6 days delegates or people who attend the conference come in, and they sit down and they take labs, or they have an online lab environment. And these labs usually last anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe 3 hours. So a lot of us have looked at MDG boxes, but the problem with MDG is that there's the cost and there's no Microsoft support, at least last I've heard, correct? Anybody have MDG? So this guy here, his name is Ronald, and I won't pronounce his last name because it's Danish or Swedish, whatever it is. But he's hosting lab environments, and he's got all of the Microsoft software that's up there, so that if you ever want to host an environment for your students, all you got to do is call them up, and it's click, 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 and poof, you got a lab environment. If you have customized software, like a Linux environment with Microsoft or a combination, all you have to do is send him the disks, and he'll make it available for the students. What he doesn't have, like MDG has, is the grading system. So what I do with my students is I have them give me a screenshot, when they're done with an assignment. And I'll kind of go a little bit further on this. I use help desk software like SysAid, and I actually have my students submit a help desk ticket, which is really their assignment, which is really giving them experience with help desk software. See how clever that is? Subliminal there. That way, when they leave college, they can say, oh, I know how to use SysAid. So the two that I would look at, if you're interested in doing this, is SysAid or SpiceWorks. Those are the two most common help desk software. SYSAID. It's still free, and I go back and forth between SysAid and SpiceWorks. SpiceWorks supposedly is a little bit easier in some respects. You can either do it in the cloud, but I do it locally. So my students, the server that they have to submit their help desk ticket or their labs is only available in the classroom, which means they can't go home and do it. Right, and then as soon as the class is over, I unplug the server, and then it's next week. The other thing this does is it also gives me attendance. Ew, isn't that sneaky? Because I know what time they submitted the report for the lab assignment. Okay, so as I said, with OneNote, I got to go back on this. I was horrified that our instructors don't teach that, and I beg you, just tell the students, you know, give them 15 minutes. That's what I did with my students last semester. And I had this one woman that just made beautiful notes. And it's like, oh, share with me, because now they're mine. But they are wonderful. Okay, so let me kind of get back on topic here. So Microsoft has a vision, right? And the vision is Windows 10, Windows Azure, Windows Server, Hyper-V, Xbox, Windows Phone. They're all kind of being combined together under one code base is what the ultimate goal is. Because in the past, Windows Phone, Xbox, Server, and Client were kind of different code bases, so it was hard for programmers to write code. Now what they're trying to do is have this one unified code. So one thing that's changed at Microsoft is the new guy, Satya Nadella, right? So I can tell you this, he ain't no Steve Ballmer. And my opinion of Steve Ballmer was, I hope he's not listening to the recording, but I didn't like Steve in the beginning. And Steve was kind of one of those guys that he had to grow on you. And now I kind of miss him. Satya, you know, I believe, I don't know if he was born in America, anybody know? But he's definitely, I think he was born in India, right? Yeah. So it's interesting to have, you know, as an American, to have somebody running a tech company that's not, you know, an American, so to speak, even though he's been here a long time. But it's clear his vision is completely different than what Steve Ballmer's was. And Satya is kind of picking up the transition between Steve and what Satya wants to do. And I think we can all agree that the last couple of years for Microsoft have kind of been kind of iffy. You know, products are kind of, they've been fragmented. Satya has this complete, you know, he's kind of laser focused right now. And what he's trying to do is go back to this slide, is unify everything. So it's one product, one platform, one store. So just if you don't know, is Apple has the Apple Store, Android has the Marketplace, Microsoft has the Microsoft Store, which stunk. And so they're revamping that completely. That'll be out in Windows 10. So what else do I have? So a lot of you guys didn't like, you know, the Metro or the Metro apps menu. So Microsoft is fixing all you folks. Right? They're coming back with what I call the 50-foot start menu. You remember the Revenge of the 50-Foot Woman or whatever those movies were, right? So what they did is, instead of having just this, now they give you this crud stuff, right? So now you got this mix between the old and the new, and you got the small and the large and the text, and it's like, oh, crud. Okay, the other thing, if you haven't played around with this, is take a look at where they put the on and off. So it's like, now you got to hunt for it, right? Let's see, if I go back here, before we were clicking down here, right? You'd have to hover in the corner. Now you hover in the corner, and it's like, oh, crud, how do I turn it up? So first thing they moved it up there. Okay. Anybody use Windows to Go? Anybody seen this or know about this? I talk about this every single time. So this is my Windows operating system. So this is great for students because they have their complete environment, which is Windows, plus their apps, plus all their data, which is also syncing with SkyDrive. So they can go from this computer to that computer, that computer to that computer. And the great thing about this is it's their problem. It's not your problem in terms of maintaining it. You know what I mean? So when it comes up, I was teaching at BBC, it's time for a computer refresh, and for our lab, right, we have removable hard drives. And so that way each student has their own hard drive. Well, now all we do is give them a stick, right? And they're all set. The great thing about this is you can put Windows 8 on here. Windows 8 has Hyper-V natively, which means now you can have Windows 8 and Windows 7 off of the same stick, because now you have a virtualized environment. This is supposed to run only off of USB 3, but no problem with USB 2, if it's kind of light-duty stuff. I don't know. Microsoft gave me this. This is 32 gig. Okay, these are not, I should stress, these are not your regular sticks, right? These are special Windows to Go sticks, because these are high read-write, or high-write. Because, right, if you use a regular stick, it'll blow them out, which might be a good lab exercise. These, around $70, $100 in that range. You can also, from what I understand, use a hard drive. So you could give students a USB 3 hard drive and have them, plug in that way. Yeah, an external hard drive. So that way, what you do is you deploy computers without hard drives. You give, or you make your students, have your students buy a hard drive, and then that way they plug in. And that way they take it home. They can go to any computer. They can go to a library. All they got to do is plug into a USB 3 port. And it will work with 2, but it's not supposed to. Well, you just have to be able to boot off a USB. Okay, so usually you press one of the F keys. Okay, anybody teach A+? Okay, I got to tell you, I taught it for the first time last semester. Oh my gosh, is that stuff outdated, and I used the latest book. So I spent 2.5, 3 hours at Fry's over the Christmas holidays after I had finished the class looking at all the new hardware that's coming out and realizing that everything that is an A+ that was just updated isn't in there. It's not even close. A lot of this stuff has been out for a number of years. So what I'm also realizing, and this is Microsoft's view, is we've entered into the throwaway PC era, right? Anybody got to upgrade the RAM on this? You can't upgrade the hard drive, right? You can't do it. You can't upgrade the processor. Same thing on this. So if you take a look at the Surface, they have the Surface 3, the Surface 2. The Surface 3, if you want to buy one of these, those things are fantastic. This is a full i5, right? i5, i7 computer. You can run Hyper-V on here. I'm not sure if you can get 16 gigs, but I can tell you on forums, people are looking for 64 gig computers, because that way they can run Hyper-V on there, or a virtualized environment with an i7. So these are a little pricey, but I got to tell you, they are fantastic. 10 minutes, oh no, I got to talk for it. Okay. So we talked about disk drives, memory, not upgradable. Think about this. All the computers, more or less, are having chips soldered to the motherboard. We have sealed cases. So my argument is, why teach A+ for over the course of a semester? A+ should be probably about a month long. If you take a look at the PCs, I don't know if you've seen this, there's the Reset PC. This is a feature in Microsoft. You can either wipe to factory defaults, or you can just remove you can either, let's see, clean the entire hard drive, or just remove my files, or there's another setting which is just refresh the Microsoft portion of it. Oh, here it is. So you can do a reset or refresh or a reset. Somehow that got mixed up. Okay, let's keep going. We talked about Office 365. I got to tell you, if you haven't tried this, this is fantastic. This is phenomenal. I got a brand new computer, the Surface Pro, so like a Surface 3. I sign in, it says what's your email address, and I type it in, and then it says configuring, and configuring, and it's like, crud, what are you configuring? All of a sudden, next thing I know, I got Word, I got Office, I got Excel, I got PowerPoint, I've got my OneNote files, I got my pictures, and it's like, whoa, everything's synced up, right? Takes a while, but no time at all. So if you haven't tried Office 365 or Office Online, give that a shot. That is great. I really like that. Anybody looked, or have you been following Puppet and Chef? Okay, so Puppet and Chef are out there. These are products that allow you to deploy applications on computers. Microsoft, with Satya, is really embracing the open source community, and they're supporting Chocolatey. Anybody heard of this? So Chocolatey is open source. It requires PowerShell, and if there's one thing you should be teaching every single student, it's PowerShell, 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 and more PowerShell. Chocolatey uses PowerShell, and you do a Choco install, and they have this whole chocolate theme, so they're chocolate nuggets, and each one of those is an application, essentially, that you're deploying. So it's a application deployment tool. This one took me by surprise. Anybody heard of Docker? Okay, anybody teaching Docker? So this is a virtualized environment. Yeah, right. It's like, what? So, and the way that you do it is you make containers, and to understand the concept of Docker, just go out there, they got a little 5-minute video. But remember that the talk that we get about, like, the Super Bowl comes along and Domino's Pizza wants to ramp up and have all these virtual servers to take all the orders that are going to be coming in, and then they need to shut down all those servers. There's no need for them to pay. That was the big selling point of the cloud, right? So Docker takes this one step further. What Docker says is, we'll virtualize the application, not the server, so that you can spin up these applications and then they can go away. So you can use memory, you can use hard disk space, and then all of a sudden they're gone. Microsoft didn't tell us a lot about Docker, but I got to tell you, they suggested we really spend a lot of time learning Docker. Okay, and then they have this Docker orchestration. Microsoft, as well as VMware, both have partnerships with Docker, but there's something different about the Docker-Microsoft partnership that is edging out VMware. So Azure, everything in the cloud. I don't know if people are teaching Cisco, if you're teaching disk storage like EMC. I hope those guys aren't here. But I got to tell you, Microsoft has their Azure data plate, data houses, warehouses, wherever they're located. And what Microsoft is telling us is that they don't want to buy Cisco equipment anymore because they're paying a premium, nor do they want to pay for EMC. So what Microsoft is doing and what companies are doing is moving to software-defined networks. So SDNs is what they're called. This is coming up. Our business advisory committee said that this is their next goal, is to deploy SDNs. And what an SDN is, kind of like Microsoft started many, many years ago. You just bought a generic PC, now you buy a generic router. You just plug everything in, and what happens is the packets are flying over the network, they reprogram the software-defined router on the fly. So no need for Cisco anymore, or no need for expensive Cisco gear. So software-defined networks, Microsoft is looking into that, and they're developing new product. Software, I got 5 minutes, right? Okay. So let's see. Virtualized storage is really a big thing. Microsoft has a new disk format that's called ReFS or RFS, yeah, new file system. You can't boot off of it, but they're working on that. But what Microsoft is doing is they're making the disk infrastructure inexpensive and resilient. So before you throw away all the computers that you're retiring, pull out all the hard drives so you can build these virtualized storage environments, right? You don't need them now, but as Microsoft comes up with what they're coming up with server, you want to be able to teach students about virtualized storage and virtualized networks. Okay, a couple other terms I'm going to throw out here. Is anybody familiar with TPM? So TPM is a chip that's installed in the computer. Now these chips, you buy them on a little card. Yeah, blew me away. This is what I learned over at Fry's. You buy the TPM chip, you plug it in, there's a socket on the motherboard that you plug it into. There are two standards for TPM. Anything. Well, yeah, the plug-in is for desktops. There's also virtualized TPM. So, and you think, how can they virtualize a secure data store? And the answer is, they can do it. I'm running out of time. But along with that, along with TPM, you should learn about Opal. Opal is another standard. There's Opal version 1, Opal version 2. Just like TPM, they're not backwards compatible, but a lot of drive manufacturers are Opal compliant. So we're now moving into an era where we have self-encrypting drives, or they're called SEDs. Is this taught in A+? No. Is Opal TPM? TPM is. Microsoft's eDrive, that's not taught in there either. So what Microsoft's eDrive is, it works with Opal and it works with TPM, so that if you have a self-encrypting drive, you're not using BitLocker to encrypt and the self-encrypting drive to encrypt. So you don't wind up with this double encryption. Okay? BitLocker is a big thing because it protects data at rest. Let's see what we're coming up with. I kind of threw these together. Number one job, I brought this up last MPIC conference at lunchtime talk. The number one job in San Francisco is still DevOps, which is development and operations. If you don't know what that is, come talk to me. But I've been tracking the job market in the Bay Area for 6 years. DevOps is still where it's at. If you're not familiar with an attack, this is not a Microsoft problem. This is an industry problem. And this is called a pass the hash or a PTH attack. What a PTH is somebody that's able to figure out somebody's credentials, move laterally, and then get elevated privileges. So if we take a look here, you get an attacker that comes in, goes after all these different machines, right, is able to compromise one machine. On that one machine, they're able to get elevated privileges. And then once they have elevated privileges, they own the farm. And what's interesting is Microsoft has documented cases that are taken over a year to clear out a pass-the-hash attack. So new in Windows 10 is remediation for this. And what they're doing is they're creating, when you log in, they run a microkernel for the login process. And as they run the microkernel, that microkernel presents the credentials to the actual operating system kernel. So along with that, Microsoft has partnered with Fido, which is now another open source. Anybody heard of Fido? Me neither. Right? I'm running out of time here. So security in Windows Next, you should know about AppLocker. We talked about BitLocker, the virtual smart cards. Right? You think smart cards, that's physical, but they have virtual smart cards. You got early launch, anti-malware. This is all what Microsoft is doing. This is all brand new stuff that we should be teaching. There's Smart Screen, Defender, Secure Boot, Measure Boot. It's like, what the heck are these guys? You should know about UEFI. Want the picture? Otherwise, I want to move forward. You got to give me extra time. All right, so this was a brief overview. My name is Doug Spindler. Thank you for attending. We'll take questions.